An exhibition of new work starts Saturday at the Dorchester Art Project in Fields Corner. It's called Murmurations, an exploration of pattern, movement, and forces of nature. Joining us are the artists collaborating in the exhibition, Anya Smolnikova and Jared Williams. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I want to start with Anya. I know you've been with us before. This is a whole new direction here, but talk about how this gets started. This wasn't something that starts indoors in the studio, so take me out in the wilderness where it got going.
Wow. So the show is a collaboration between Jared and I. And we both have very powerful visions, and we draw a lot of our material from the wilderness, both of nature and of our own internal wildernesses. Mm-hmm. And when we started working together and actually living together as two artists and makers, those two wildernesses kind of collided, and we decided to make something out of it. Mm-hmm. And the show has been a process of seeing if we can make something, and we could, and it's really exciting. And when we do, we wanted to see what would happen.
Well, one of the pieces in here that's readily identifiable as part of the world we live in Massachusetts. Jared, this is one thing that you did that was based from your time in Cape Cod. Talk a little bit about that.
The dunes?
Yes.
Yeah, there are several drawings, and I think that area of land has been very close to me my whole life. My mother grew up there, and I've spent my whole childhood there, and actually during the making of the show, Anya and I spent a good amount of time down there working together. So that was its own kind of adventure, but the show really has been also a re-engagement for me. I was trained as a visual artist, but I have really stopped painting and drawing until very recently, and Anya was one of the reasons I started working again. She really encouraged me to get back into it.
Sure. What is it about dunes? I mean, because there's more to it than just piles of sand. You look at this, you see these patterns of wind or the ocean push. You're seeing forces, aren't you? Really?
Yeah. A lot of my experience when I'm working is really about a flow state. It's actually flow state. Is what people might call being in the groove, or an experience of being lost in the rhythm of a thing. You hear about it a lot in jazz. Lots of people who dance talk about it, and I experience it in art and even just observing nature, which is this feeling of a multitude of forces and systems just living together. And when I'm drawing, usually that's where, especially when I'm drawing, that's often where my hand is drawn to, is these repeated patterns and systems that I see all around me.
Anya, what about your work? There's one that right off did not look like Murmuration, but it's called Rainbow Bones.
Oh, Rainbow Bones.
Explain that.
That is a shot in progress, actually, so the piece isn't finished yet, and under the cloth is a old television, which is where all that static idea came from in the video that you'll see in the show. And Rainbow Bones, the subtitle of that is also The Artist Marrying Herself. So the two titles, Rainbow Bones and The Artist Marrying Herself, are I guess they're about a clash of two forces that aren't resolved quite yet. So it's a rainbow, and it's smoke or an explosion. And also, as I was painting, I realized that the rainbow and the rooster's tail, which is the year that just passed, and the smoke revealed a serpent shape inside of it, which is the year coming, kind of came together in the painting. It's a work in progress.
It reminds me of those paintings of something in Greek mythology where there's this god and there's this nymph and something happens.
Exactly, like it hasn't happened yet. So we're watching something really big happening.
Now, you mentioned
And I'm
the
there with
TV
you.
static, and this is one of the things that's going to be going. We're not just going to be looking at these portraits hanging on the wall here. We're going to be seeing. Well, explain what is this? Is this like a figure in the woods or something?
So this is a still shot from the video that Jared and I have made.
Oh, we got some movement there, I think.
Yes, and this is one of the two characters that exists in the video. That is played by Jared. And the static in the belly is a portal as well as the belly. So I just started forming this idea. So we have these devices, right? Our phones, our computers, and they are all screens. And there are all these screens, and I think it really started with the television. And we're all, at least the three of us are familiar with the static on television. Now, static is like something you can search for on YouTube to see what it looked like. But when those first TVs came out, static was a huge part of the visuals of the TV. So these portals that we have and now we carry in our pockets, they really are portals into the infinite world, the internet, or our infinite internet identity, our Facebook identity. And it's an extremely powerful tool, and you could think of it as something, new technology, but it's actually a very ancient idea, and which is the reason why we're so attracted and obsessed with it. And so these portals they're also, you can think of them, or you can think of portals to other dimensions, portals to other worlds, portals to the other infinity, or maybe there's only one infinity, the infinity that we're maybe longing for, that we're trying to get through in our phones and our computers, and maybe we will, and the phone is this like midpoint between telepathy, with texting. So I'm playing with the idea of a portal as a TV and a portal in this spirit's belly, and static is also this like primordial
At least it tells you the set is working.
Yeah, so that's what that's all about.
But this is being a news, by the way, and we're talking with Anya Smolnikova and Jared Willilams from the Dorchester Art Project. Another part of this, Jared, is you're going to have a wall with this sort of sprawling, what is it, a word cloud or word flock?
Yeah, the basis of this mural that we're creating, or we have created, it actually comes from one of Anya's exercises that she's building in her teaching. It was a way of deconstructing words into simple shapes, sort of arcs and curves and lines on diagonals and ups and downs. And we decided, as we're both sort of draftsmen and have a lot of affinity for line, to sort of use that as a way to start building collaboration together. So the idea was to just begin to draw these basic shapes that could potentially make words or make images, but to not be focused on making words or images, but rather just mark making, and let the mark making become about itself. And we were thinking about the way starlings, for people that don't know the word murmuration, it's these big clouds of starlings that you can see that usually out of a startle response turn into these giant clouds that make amazing shapes, and it will go on for a while and then settle down. And we were sort of trying to channel a little bit of that kind of, again, flow state where you're not concerned about what you're making so much, but deep inside of the process, there's a logic that will show itself.
And you talk about your work, Yellow Horseshoes.
Okay. Yellow Horseshoes is also part of the series called Processions. So I've been making these small drawings that basically fall into categories of processions, portals, and projections. This is one of the processions. It's processions simply because it's something moving through space. It's some kind of a shape moving through space. All my framed work in the show is these recent studies, kind of abstract visions of these shapes coming. So they've been coming. I've been recording them, and that's all I actually know. And I've really been enjoying working from the observation of something that I haven't actually looked at. Which I'm a visually I'm a foundation trained artist and painter. So I spend years and years and years and years looking and drawing the figure, the still life, the landscape. And a few years ago, I realized that I really couldn't draw unless I was looking at something. And I went on a quest to try to figure out how to be able to draw without having to look at something. I love looking; it's my favorite. But I felt really dependent on it in a disabling way. So I think I started observing things like shadows, things like reflections, things that really couldn't be, or moving water, moving shadows, things that couldn't be drawn from observation. Because they're moving and changing all the time. And the more I looked at them, the more I was able to understand how they work. And a lot of these drawings have been coming from staring at these ephemeral forms, which one of the videos that's also in the show that we don't have a clip of here is all about those little moments.
Jared, I want to ask you about something that is a work that sounds very personal, and yet at first glance I'm saying, well, that's sort of a, one of those water landscape type of picture, like almost like Monet, but you've got this flocking of things on the surface of the water. And talk about the title, because it's not what I would have guessed.
Well, I am a second generation, actually third, who knows, maybe longer, third generation artist. My mother was a painter, Noah Hall, and she passed away 3 years ago. And her real passion, or her window that sort of led her into sort of what became her pursuit in art, was the reflections of ponds. She spent years painting reflections of ponds until they became these large abstract fields. So she was really obsessed with these levels and layers. So this is just, she was very present with me when I was making the painting. So it felt very much like, oh, I know what you were talking about. I know what you were working with.
What is it that's going on with you when you come up, you're confronted by something like that, you're fascinated by it, it's random, and you don't want it to be random necessarily. You think there's got to be a pattern in there someplace, right?
Yeah. Well, I think there are, and I think that one of the wonderful things about being an artist is you get to really fall into that mystery and not be so obsessed with solving it. It's not necessarily like science in that sense. It is an adventure and a pursuit, but you're sort of aware of the mega, the just giant size of the process that you're in when you're painting, especially painting with nature. So just watching the forms, but not having to necessarily solve anything or fix anything, just really be in that state.
And we hope that people will be in that state as well when they come by. And Anya, we should finally mention that the time this gets going on Saturday.
Saturday, 6 to 9 p.m.
And it's a month-long exhibition, so there are a number of times. People can check out your Facebook page too, I guess?
Yes, actually, the exhibition's online at murmurationsart.com, and we'll have a closing reception on February 11th. And it's available by appointment, so you can contact us and we can take you around anytime you like.
Thank you both very much from the Dorchester Art Project, Anya Smolnikova and Jared Willilams.